Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. As it has done every day this week, once again, the Congress party has revealed fresh details and documents that it believes raises the stake in the Sushma Swaraj Vasundhara Raje affair. But 18 days after the scandal first broke, there's no sign of either lady resigning or the Prime Minister removing them. So tonight we ask three critical questions. First, how successful is the Congress strategy, or is it failing to hit the target? Second, is Congress scraping the barrel and becoming desperate, or is it raising credible issues? And third, is Sushma Swaraj emerging as the weak link that could most easily snap? Those are the key issues we shall tackle over the next 1 hour. And joining me for tonight's discussion is Congress spokesperson and MP Abhishek Singhvi, BJP spokesperson Lalit Modi, the political editor of the Business Standard Aditi Phadnis, the well-known Supreme Court lawyer C.R.M. Sundaram, and Indian Express columnist and reputed author Thavleen Singh. Thavleen Singh, let's start with the so-called big development of the day. Congress has revealed that Lalit Modi offered an alternate directorship in one of his companies to Suraj Kaushal, and Mr. Kaushal turned the offer down. Now, in your eyes, is this proof of something improper? Or is it a case of Congress seeming to scrape the barrel because it can't find better dirt?
Both. I think that Congress is scraping the barrel, but also I think that there seems to be a little too much coziness between the Sushma Swaraj family and the Modis. And that sort of puts into question, you know, a lot of things.
Let me push that a little. There may be a question to ask about Sushma Swaraj's relationship with Lalit Modi, but her husband has been Lalit Modi's lawyer for 22 years, long before the BJP government ever came to power, long before Atal Bihari Vajpayee came to power. So if Lalit Modi and Suraj Kaushal continue to have a relationship, why is that cozy, why is that questionable?
Well, I think there's certain things that count in public life. A matter of probity. For instance, when Biju Patnaik became Minister of Steel, he gave up his steel business. And there are certain things that need to be corrected in Indian public life. And this is why it would have been good for him, or it would have been good for the foreign minister to have said, my husband works for them and I'm helping Lalit Modi for the following reason. And I'm being very open about it, and then there would have been no questions.
Aditi Phadnis, let me put it like this. What's wrong if Suraj Kaushal or any other minister's husband accepts an alternate directorship in Lalit Modi's company? Or, because in this specific instance it happened in April 2015 against a particular background, does it then, because of that, become fishy and suggest collusiveness?
Well, this government came to power in May 2014. And he was offered the directorship, I think, in April 2014. So, theoretically, it is still before the government came to power.
No. He was offered the directorship in April 2015.
Okay.
11 months later.
So, if he accepted it, then, I mean, if I had been in his place, I might not have accepted.
But let me put it like this. He has a relationship that goes back 22 years, as I said before, Atal Bihari Vajpayee came to power. If then he's offered an alternate directorship, and it's not a full directorship, and it's only for a limited period until Lalit can himself attend, what's wrong in accepting it? Because the relationship is much, much older than the government being in power.
That's true, but Mr. Kaushal, whose reputation otherwise is unblemished, is in a position where barely a couple of months after his wife takes up a job in government, she allows Lalit Modi to become a person with a citizenship, with a passport which he didn't have earlier. So it's all.
So you're saying against that background, which we didn't know at the time, but now that we do,
exactly,
this offer, which he didn't accept, becomes unfortunate and wrong.
I think maybe it's better not to take up such offers.
So the background is the conditioning thing.
I think so.
Arima Sundaram, I want to ask you, as a lawyer, what you make of this. Is it suspicious if a man in Lalit Modi's position asks Sushma Swaraj's husband to stand in as an alternate director? Or, because Suraj Kaushal has been his lawyer for 22 years, it's perfectly okay.
Karan, I don't think this can be looked in isolation. When I look at the question of offering an alternate directorship to him when he has been his lawyer, per se, I can't find anything objectionable in that. Equally, the fact that Sushma Swaraj is a minister and her husband is the lawyer for Lalit Modi and he is being offered an alternate director, per se, is not objectionable. But let us understand what exactly has happened here. The fact is, Sushma Swaraj, as a minister, with the weight of being a minister, has championed Lalit Modi's cause in so far as his passport, etc. was concerned, his residency in England was concerned. Now, she has championed his cause, and she is a minister. So two questions arise. One, as a minister, could she champion the cause of a person who is wanted to be examined by the government of India and who has run away from this country 5 years ago?
Can I stop you? Can I stop you? We must be careful. Mr. Sundaram, we have to be careful with the language we use. I think you are probably being unfair when you say he's run away. He wasn't an absconder. He is still not technically and legally an absconder. He chose of his volition to go and not return.
Can I repeat my words, Karan? Karan, can I repeat my words? He has run away. I am saying my words fully advised, fully aware of what I'm saying. In 2010, he was required in the course of an investigation.
This is not about Lalit Modi. This is about Swaraj.
He ran away.
This is not about Lalit Modi. This is about Swaraj Kaushal.
Looked at it in itself, there is nothing objectionable either in Mr. Swaraj appearing for Mr. Modi as a lawyer, nor is it objectionable that Mr. Modi has offered him a directorship. But in the overall backdrop, considering the situation right now, considering the fact that Mr. Swaraj's wife is the External Affairs Minister and has participated in an attempt to get Modi his residency.
Can I interrupt?
A different light.
Can I interrupt?
Again.
No, just a moment. Let me interrupt now. Let me interrupt. Would it be only not okay because she's External Affairs Minister? In other words, are you saying no External Affairs Minister can accept an alternate directorship from someone who's been a client for 22 years?
Certainly not. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that in the backdrop of the fact that she, being the External Affairs Minister and the weight of her office, has sought to assist Modi, it is that background I'm talking about.
Okay.
If that was not the case, there was nothing wrong at all.
Okay.
Because I'm not, but again, the second aspect is, has he disclosed it? Has she disclosed it?
Well, hang on a second. I don't think she's required to disclose it. You are not required to disclose where your husband works. There is no code of conduct, regardless of what other television channels are claiming.
On the fact of it being offered,
there is no there is no need to disclose it. There is no need to disclose it because there is no requirement.
Offered a directorship.
No, forgive me. There is no requirement in law. There is no requirement in protocol to disclose it. There is no code of conduct. So let's not raise red herrings.
Karan, in isolation, there is no need. But I'm saying it in the context of the fact that she, as External Affairs Minister, put her weight behind a Modi request to somehow assist Modi to get his travel documents.
I take your point. Given the specific
backdrop,
I take your point.
There is nothing wrong.
Okay, you're making two things. A, there's nothing wrong in Swaraj Kaushal accepting a alternate directorship from someone who's been a client for 22 years. But in the specific circumstances of this instance, there is something suspicious because of the fact that his wife had taken specific action to help Lalit Modi just a little earlier on. That I accept. Lalit Kohli, I have tried deliberately, purposely hard with all the first three guests to try and argue that there is nothing wrong with Swaraj Kaushal accepting an alternate directorship. Each one of them has actually found something wrong with it. So I want to put to you a simple question. At the end of the day, even if there's nothing wrong and even if he turned down the offer, it looks bad. It smacks of a form of collusion that doesn't suit your government's interest. And here, the danger you face is that this is an instance of mud that will stick. That's the problem you face today.
That's an interesting argument. Let me point out a few things. Let's begin at the top. First of all is there, as you pointed out, Mr. Swaraj Kaushal has I'm sorry Karan, but I have a massive problem with my audio. My voice is coming back and disturbing me, so I'm unable to speak in a flow. Would you like to return to me in a bit?
Yes, of course, I'll come back to you. Has it been rectified? I'm told in my...
Yes, I think it is. It is. Thank you. That was very disturbing, so I apologize if I might need to repeat a few sentences. So let's go back to it from the top. In the first case, I am unable to understand how Mr. Lalit Modi is so critical to the national discourse in India. He's a private individual. He's wanted in 12 enforcement directorate cases. The government of India, no less than the finance minister, is on record that yes, these are matters that are being pursued.
15,
it's in the public space.
15 actually.
15, if it is 15, so be it. And second is what his commercial, private, etc. details are. Whether it is again to be critical to the national discourse, that's something perhaps we need to reflect on. Now let's get to the sum and substance of what we are speaking and the implications of what some of the arguments are being made. First of all is Mr. Swaraj Kaushal does have, as you pointed out, a long relationship with Mr. Lalit Modi. He's an advocate. If he takes a wakalatnama, as anyone who's an advocate represents a client, he is representing them in totality. He's not offered a job, as some people are saying about it. This is a basically substitute directorship. Maybe 3 meetings a year, maybe 4 meetings a year. It's routine. I'm positive that people on this panel and other lawyers there would have perhaps served on boards in this capacity, doing statutory requirement 3-4 meetings a year and paid some minor amount. So therefore, that's very routine. People who trust their advocates, they trust their chartered accountants, they invariably would ask them to step in for them. Let's go number 3. Is it linked to Ms. Swaraj Kaushal? That's an interesting argument that the Congress is making. Because A, in the first case, nothing was accepted. He didn't accept it. B, even if he did accept it, so is Mr. Swaraj Kaushal expected now to leave his professional identity, his personal identity, and perhaps shift out of the house where he lives with his spouse just because she now becomes a minister? There's no such requirement, there's no provision. If it's conflict of interest, then by the same argument could be drawn to say that if a journalist is writing against a government and the spouse of the journalist happens to be working in the government, is it conflict of interest? There's no end to these kind of theories.
Absolutely.
Finally, let's go to the implications of what are being spoken of. One last comment. Just one last comment. Implications. So therefore, if we say let's look at it in the totality with due deference, and I see nothing wrong in these lawyers representing so and so. So if Mr. Salman Khurshid represents a rape accused, or he represents an organization banned as a terrorist organization, is that to be drawn in context that India is fighting a war against terror? Therefore, Mr. Salman Khurshid or his party has a nexus with that? Okay. Ridiculous. These are not arguments that could be taken. Everyone is entitled to their professional identity.
You had a long time, Lalit Modi. Let someone else come in. Abhishek Singhvi, I want to put something that I put at the very start to Tavleen Singh, and she agreed that this is an instance of what looks like Congress scraping the barrel to find dirt because you can't find anything better. And I'll tell you why I say that. Because in the first instance, you know, a man who's been a lawyer for someone for 22 years has a right and would probably be the best choice to step in as an alternate director because the man himself can't do the job. That's a very logical choice to make. Secondly, just because this man now becomes the husband of a foreign minister doesn't mean he should now cut himself off from his previous clients. There's no requirement to do so. In fact, it would be ridiculous to expect him to do so. Therefore, what you're alleging is neither based on fact, nor on propriety, nor on convention. You're simply bringing it up because in the present circumstances, it can look fishy. You're trading on the doubt present circumstances create to try and suggest something much worse than actually is the case. That's what you're really doing. And is it fair?
Karan, it's the classic case of the BJP deliberately asking everybody to ask the wrong question to get the wrong answer. This is not about Lalit Modi. It is not about Swaraj Kaushal. It is not about Bansuri Kaushal. Swaraj Kaushal and Bansuri Kaushal have every right, as you rightly say, to practice their vocation. They are esteemed colleagues at the bar, and I am the first one to defend to death your right to practice as a professional. There is also nothing wrong in being a representative on the board if you are a trusted lawyer or a chartered accountant. But that's not the issue at all, as the BJP or Mr. Kohli would have us believe. The issue is that these associations establish a close proximity And the case we are canvassing is about the Foreign Minister of India. The Foreign Minister of India strongly champions the cause of Lalit Modi, bypassing her own ministry completely. Not a single note on file about the so-called humanitarian object, not a call to the Foreign Secretary, not a file noting. Plenty of calls to Mr. Vaz, to UK authorities and to Mr. Bevan, the High Commissioner in India. And this is the Foreign Minister who admittedly, whose proximity to Mr. Lalit Modi is proved by these associations, neither recusing herself, which is the minimal, I repeat, the minimal she should have done, nor indeed in fact disclosing, and I repeat here because contrary to what you told Arima Sundaram, she should have recused or have said I am taking a decision while disclosing that there is this deep-seated family links between me and Mr. Modi. It's as simple as that. This is a discussion about the Foreign Minister of a sovereign country of India, not about individuals.
Can I interrupt?
The whole discussion is skewed
permit an interruption
for ulterior motives.
Look, you're building an entire case of impropriety centered around the fact that Suraj Kaushal was offered an alternate directorship after 9 or 10 months after his wife had taken certain steps to help Lalit Modi obtain a British travel document. The whole case rests on just that. But what you're forgetting is that Suraj Kaushal has an association of 22 years. His wife probably has a separate relationship. But why is Suraj Kaushal liable to be considered improper because his wife has done something?
I entirely understand you, Karan, and let me accept every word you are saying. I started by saying that I would defend to death the right of Mr. Kaushal and Ms. Bansuri Kaushal, who are valued, esteemed colleagues of the bar, to practice their vocation. What this all evidence coming out in driblets is proving is the close proximity of the association. Now, if you have close association and your spouse is holding an important government position, suppose you are very, very close to Mr. X. Let's admit that. That is disclosed, that is admitted as far as the Kaushal family and Lalit Modi are concerned. You are yourself saying value 22 years association. Will your spouse take a decision in favor of Mr. Modi, bypassing her department and ministry, and neither recuse herself,
nor disclose? You're mixing up two issues. They're separate. You need to keep them separate. Look, let me bring in others and I'll come back to you.
No, Karan.
May I?
It's not the date. Karan, let me, one second. Karan, 1 second. It is not about the dates. It's about the admitted close proximity. Close proximity accepted. The issues are about governance. In fact, I hate to say this. God forbid if somebody
let's not broaden this into governance. Let's leave that out. Abhishek, this is not about governance. Let's stick narrowly to the question of propriety. No, everything can be broadened to any.
May I also respond?
I'll come to Lalit Modi. Your sister department is prosecuting me and you are bypassing me.
There's a
what
point
are you saying, Karan?
Related to what
Mr. Arima Sundaram, let me come to Mr. Arima Sundaram and then I'll come back to Lalit Modi. Mr. Arima Sundaram, a simple question. If Mrs. Swaraj had not intervened to help Lalit Modi get that British travel document, then would this offer of alternate directorship in your eyes have been completely kosher and acceptable? It's that one instance alone that makes it questionable, doesn't it?
No. Yes, and the two are inextricably linked. But for that, otherwise nothing wrong.
Well, hang on a second.
That in the beginning, I repeat it again.
When you say that I'm interrupting again. I'm interrupting again for the sake of clarity. When you say the two are inextricably linked, you're suggesting that the only reason he was offered the alternate directorship is because 11 months earlier, his wife had done something. You're ignoring the fact that there's a 22-year relationship.
No.
Otherwise, they can't be inextricably linked.
I'm not saying that at all. Sorry, they are inextricably linked because when Mr. Kaushal has such a close relationship with Mr. Modi, when his relationship with Mr. Modi is such both as lawyer, friend, as also a prospective director in his company, the minister ought not to have involved herself in a decision.
But that's a different issue. You're confusing two issues. That's a different issue. Forgive me. We're talking about Suraj Kaushal.
I'm saying the error is on the part of the minister. Karan, let's not confuse it. I'm saying the error is on part of the minister.
Yeah, but you're jumping to a different subject. Forgive me. Let me bring in the two journalists who, in a sense, are independent observers who are listening to this conversation. Do you get the feeling that if the offer of an alternate directorship had not been preceded by this business of Mrs. Swaraj helping Lalit Modi get a British travel document, there would have been no problem with the offer whatsoever.
I still feel that it's not a, it's a problematic issue.
Why?
Because Mr. Kaushal...
Do you stop having a relationship with someone just because your wife has become a minister? A 22-year relationship is to be wiped out?
The fact is, I would ask myself why Lalit Modi is, or anybody for that matter, is offering me this now.
Because he's now not able to attend the meetings. That's why. It didn't occur earlier.
Yeah, it could have been anyone else.
But why anyone else? Surely your lawyer of 22 years standing is a natural choice.
You know, these are things which depend on your personal discretion. These are things which you have to take a call on.
So therefore, regardless of what you're hearing, you're still convinced that this smacks of impropriety.
Well, I would say...
Even if there wasn't that quid pro quo 9 months earlier.
There are odors which are not very pleasant.
Okay. Taveen Singh, let me bring you in on that one. You felt that this was both an instance of Congress scraping the barrel, but also an instance of impropriety. Do you think that impropriety is because he's a minister's husband and therefore he should not accept directorships from anyone, full stop? Or is it only because 11 months earlier, his wife had actually done something to facilitate travel documents? Which of the two is the problem?
Okay, Lalit Modi left India in 2010. So he couldn't have attended meetings anyway. Why was Mr. Kaushal not offered this 5 years earlier? So there is something that sounds quite wrong with what has happened.
Could it not just be that company law gives you a certain amount of grace when you don't attend, and afterwards it becomes problematic and therefore you need to find a replacement? I'm just making that up, but could that not be an explanation if it is the law?
I know you love doing this devil's advocate thing, Karan, but that's a really weak one. No, I don't think so.
So in other words, you're saying there is something suspicious about the fact that it was offered at this point in time after Mrs. Swaraj had become a minister, and therefore the fact that she's a minister, he should have refused regardless of the length of the relationship.
Or she should have been more open about it. We really need in India more openness in public life.
Okay.
And here was a chance for Modi's government, Modi's ministers to show that they were different.
Let me bring you in again, Lalit Modi, before I take a break. You see, I'm coming back to the point I made to you earlier. Even if there is no requirement in terms of law or even in obvious terms of propriety, nonetheless this smacks wrong for two reasons. A, because 11 months earlier, Swaraj Kaushal's wife had done something to help Lalit Modi, and therefore this looks like a return favor. And B, because the need for an alternate director is coming up some 5 years after Lalit Modi left, and it's coming up only after Swaraj Kaushal's wife has become a minister. So it again suggests as if this is being done to ingratiate. On both counts, it looks bad. And that's why I say, propriety apart, the mud could stick.
Well, Mr. Thapar, let's first go by what Dr. Singhvi is saying. I think an argument taken midstream is dangerous. You need to go back to the beginning. And at the beginning is Mr. Lalit Modi should have been in the country. He should have been tried for these 12 or 15 enforcement directorate cases. I don't know where the BJP and how the BJP can be blamed for his leaving, as Mr. Aryaman Sundaram points out, running away of the country. So someone helped, and also the legal provisions invoked against him were weak. You can't even invoke penal promotions in a way to bring him back.
Is that really connected to the question I asked you?
The second is what Taveen ji is saying and what Aditi ji is saying in terms of, it doesn't be correct and all. That's an argument, because everything could be suspicious by that logic. If I were to just have a small chat with Dr. Singhvi standing in the courts, it could be seen that maybe there is something happening here. Maybe it's BJP, it may not. So I don't think everyone's entitled to look at it from the realm of suspicion. But if it is suspicious or wrong, that's another thing. And third is about the argument that Dr. Singhvi is making. I find that, in a sense, interesting in its implications. Again, borrowing words from him, and I'm not casting aspersions on any of these senior advocates from the Congress party. They are eminent. They are entitled to do everything that they've done as that, whether it's Mr. Sibal, whether it's Mr. Chidambaram or anyone else. So Mr. Sibal has lawyers in his family, eminent sons who are doing very well, respected for their work. So he's served in different capacities. Now, if their sons represented a firm that was related to where he was a minister, was he expected to give his son's client list? Or the same to Mr. Chidambaram as finance minister. His spouse is also a well-known advocate. And if she represented a firm that may have had a dealing with the finance ministry, expectedly, is she supposed to give a client list? Where is this argument going?
Well, you've made a good point. You've made a good point. Let Abhishek Singhvi respond. What basically the point being made is this, that you can stretch conflict of interest, you can stretch through innuendo this belief that there is a quid pro quo involved to the point of silliness. And here, you may be stretching it just one shade too far because you've got nothing else to throw at Sushma Swaraj.
Karan?
Yes, go ahead. I'm waiting for you.
Can you hear?
I can hear you to perfection.
Yeah. You know, you are trying to be the devil's advocate, as you must, but frequently you are becoming the devil itself. And I don't mean you, but I mean your argument.
No, but that's a compliment.
I'll tell you, the simple question I want to ask is, you are an advocate for Mr. Modi for 22 years. You become a minister, God forbid. Would you decide Mr. Modi's case? Obviously, you will say no. Now, you will at that point either accuse yourself or say, I am deciding the case after disclosing that I have been his advocate for 22 years.
But here it's Swaraj Kaushal's wife who's a minister, not Swaraj Kaushal.
One second, Karan, I understand that. Allow me. Now, just apply the same example that you are the lawyer and instead of you becoming the minister, your wife becomes the minister. And she decides a case totally in favor of Mr. Modi, bypassing a ministry in a case where 15 cases are being pursued by her colleague minister. Would you, Karan, be expecting that your wife would disclose that my husband is 22 years counsel for Mr. Modi, or I will recuse myself, or look, I am writing on the file that though my husband is, I am deciding it, you please check up there is no conflict.
All right.
That's as simple as that.
Okay.
This question is repeatedly put about Mr. Swaraj Kaushal accepting a directorship or appearing. That's not the issue at all.
Since you're determined to make the issue, since everyone is determined to make the issue, not Swaraj Kaushal, but Sushma Kaushal,
no avoidance.
I'm going to take a break and come back and raise the Sushma Kaushal, Sushma Swaraj, but actually Sushma Kaushal is right as well, the Sushma Swaraj case in itself. Because if everyone is convinced that Swaraj Kaushal is behaving improperly because of the association that his wife has had with